Ohio State's 48-10 win over UCLA. Saturday was a great day for me. I was able to get my order of wings. Got some hot pepper cheese balls to throw in there as well. And my wife, I love to spend a lot of time with her and things of that nature, but when she works, it gives me a lot of time to be able to sit down and watch some ball, and that's exactly what I did on Saturday. A lot of things around college football. Michigan squeaks one by against Northwestern. Bryce Underwood struggled in the second half after starting really, really good. Probably the best ball that he's ever played since he's been in college. Oklahoma takes down Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So last couple weeks here before we start to shake some things up and get into the postseason. But more on Ohio State. So leading up into the game, there were some rumors going around. Carnell Tate probably not going to play. Jeremiah Smith also has something going on as well. And then over the weekend, at about 1:30 in the morning, there was some random account out there on X that basically said Carnell Tate is extremely injured right now, and the announcement's going to come at some point that he is out for the season. Now, when you have something like that come from random accounts, you always take it with a grain of salt. And I'm going to get into the Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith injuries later in a different video, but just kind of part of the storyline leading up to the game. You saw Jeremiah Smith out there getting stretched out, getting warmed up with the guys before the game. Obviously, he went out there and played and only really played about a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half, and then his night was over with. Also before the game, Ohio State lands 4-star safety Eli Johnson, a 6'3", 200-pound kid from Texas, which Ohio State recruiting really starting to heat up right now. And just right before recording this, they just landed a 4-star edge from Buford, Georgia as well. That is edge Dre Quinn. So Ohio State's starting to stack some recruits here as we hit down to the final stretch and get into December. Here in about a month, we have a signing day coming up. All right, let's get into the game. As a quick recap, Ohio State wins 48-10 over UCLA, 27-0 at halftime. Basically, this was about exactly what you expected. UCLA sucks. They're a really bad team. There's probably not a whole lot that you can take away from this one. When you have a 3 or 4, whatever the UCLA was, win team that comes into your own building at night, especially with a backup quarterback and with the playmakers and the guys that Ohio State has on defense, the guys that they have on offense, this is about how you would expect it to go, and that's how it went. Not a whole lot you can take away from this one. Julian Sand, 23 of 31, 74% completion percentage. So Julian's got to step that up a little bit. Only 74% on the game whenever his season average right around 80. So got to step that up a little bit, Julian. But 23 of 31 for 74%, 184 yards, 1 touchdown. Kind of a quiet day from Julian. Didn't really have to do a whole lot. Like I said, UCLA was pretty bad. And looking kind of before the game, I didn't do a whole lot of research into really who UCLA was. Obviously, everybody knows that they beat Penn State. Everybody knows Indiana then dog walked them a week or two after that. But I quickly did a quick glance just to see where they were kind of rated, where their strengths were, where their weaknesses were. And coming into the game, UCLA actually had the number 19th ranked pass defense. So I didn't feel, not that I was worried that UCLA could shut down Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Julian Sand, and all the other playmakers that they have. But when I looked at the rushing defensive statistics, UCLA had 119th ranked rush defense. So I kind of had a feeling coming into this one, especially with Ohio State having some struggles in the run game. I don't know if you could necessarily call it struggles, but I think we could call it consistency. They've had times they've lacked consistency in the run game. So going into this one, I just felt like they were going to have kind of the approach to get Bo Jackson, get Isaiah West, get some of those young backs going a little bit, and you're going to need it down to the stretch in the postseason as well. So good to see. Bo Jackson, 15 carries, 112 yards, 1 touchdown. Isaiah West, 8 carries, 61 yards, and a touchdown. And then James Peoples, kind of a breakout game, something that we've been waiting to see from him this entire year. And before the season, I thought he was going to be the featured back, and I thought he was going to be kind of a do-it-all back. He can run, he can catch it out of the backfield, he can make you miss. But season hasn't really gone, I think, maybe how he's playing, how definitely I've planned going into the year, what I thought James Peoples was going to be. But you can see what he brings to the table. I mean, you saw them hurdle a guy, 2 touchdowns on the day, obviously, a couple very good runs. So very positive to see from James Peoples. But he ended his day with 6 carries, 42 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So good stuff from James Peoples. And just in the running backs, just as kind of a whole, but more in particularly Bo Jackson, I think there were probably 2 or 3 times throughout the game that I noticed him and Pass Pro step up and pick up a blitzer, which is awesome to see because there's been times on film this year where obviously he's a freshman, young running back. He's still getting a little used to the physicality of what college football is. But you saw him 2 or 3 times last night step up and smack somebody blitzing in the hole. So awesome to see. Awesome to see that from Bo Jackson in development just as we get on through the rest of the season. Aside from that, Lorenzo Styles, first kick return touchdown in Ohio State since 2010. So great to see from Lorenzo Styles. Last year it was a punt. We couldn't get a punt return touchdown for a while. Caleb Downs ended that streak against Indiana. And then this year, Lorenzo Styles ends a 15-year streak of no kick return touchdowns with a touchdown against UCLA last night. So kind of just some points that I wanted to highlight as we get into this, or kind of just to preview the game. Like I said, not a whole lot you can take away from this one. When you have a backup quarterback, bad team coming into town, smacking them in the mouth and beating them by 38 is exactly what you need to do. And that's what they did. I think we saw a little bit of both the consistent and methodical play calling and just pace that Ryan Day and the offense has played with this year. Early in the first quarter, you saw Ohio State with like a 4th and 3, 4th and 4. I think if they're playing a Georgia and Notre Dame, I think if you're in the playoff, having that momentum up 7-0, maybe Ryan Day elects to kick that. I don't know, but he elects to kick it. Taking the 3 points. I know Ohio State fans a lot of times get pretty frustrated with him whenever he has only a few yards to go, and I get it. You got Julian Sand. You can trust him with any decision that he has out there. You have Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Bo Jackson, yada, yada, yada. You got all these guys where you should be able to go and get 3-4 yards against basically anybody in the country. But I don't mind it. I think that you still need to put Jaden Fielding in positions to knock down kicks. Like, it's not just chip shot, 20, 25-yarders. Like, you need to get him in positions where he's kicking 40 to 45-yard field goals because he struggled in those spots in the past, and you're going to need it. When you get into the postseason and when you go up to Ann Arbor here in a couple weeks, you're going to need some big-time kicks, and the only way you're going to get any kind of experience or basically replicate what that is like and to put that pressure on Jaden Fielding is doing it in the game. So I don't hate it. I mean, I'm not going to complain about much that Ryan Day does. He just won a national championship. He consistently pumps out top 5 recruiting classes. All of his players speak very highly of him. A lot of his coaches speak very highly of him. So when I talk about Ryan Day, I think he does 90 to 99% of stuff basically perfect. So if he's electing to make the decision to kick a field goal on a 4th and 3 whenever we're at the, 15, 20-yard line, I'm going to trust him, and hey, that's the right decision. Aside from that, yes, we did see some consistent play and kind of the methodical pace that we've seen, but we also saw some no-huddle offense come out a little bit. Early in the first quarter, you saw Ohio State going tempo, getting plays out quick, getting to the line of scrimmage, trying to kind of show some people. I think the goal is to put it on film. Like, we've played very slow up until this point. We've played at a snail's pace, basically to try to preserve and just make ourselves more efficient in how we do things. And you've seen it just in the snap counts. Ohio State has played significantly less snaps than a lot of the other teams that play at a really quick pace, which is going to pay dividends once you get into the playoff. But I think just to have the ability to put something like that on tape, that it's like, you know about Sand, you know about Smith, you know about Tate, you know about Jackson, you know about West, you know about Claire, yada, yada, yada. But we can also tune this up a little bit too. We can play fast if and when we need to. So that just adds another element as you get down into this final stretch here when you play Michigan, hopefully beat them, go into the Big Ten championship, hopefully beat Indiana, and you get into the playoff. It just adds another dimension for opponents that they have to prepare for and they have to consider whenever they're looking at how do we stop Ohio State. Because to this point, it's been very slow, it's been very methodical, but it's been very efficient and very effective. They've still been able to put up big points on the board. They've still been able to basically do whatever they want, whenever they want. And to add that dimension just makes lives of opposing defensive coordinators that much harder as you go into game plan for Ohio State. Aside from that, I thought Brandon Ennis stepped up massive. You get into a point where you didn't have Carnell Tate, you didn't have Jeremiah Smith. You needed somebody to step up because you got a lot of guys out there like Quincy Porter's a freshman. You got Mylan Graham, who's only in his second year, hasn't played a whole lot. Bryson Rogers, shout out Bryson Rogers, comes in with the touchdown. Just a lot of new faces that were out there, and there were a lot of tight windows, toughly contested catches that Brandon Ennis stepped up and made that he deserves a lot of credit for. I think he's gotten a little bit of hate this year because he's kind of in the shadows of Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. And earlier in the year, in particular, people were kind of like, "Where's Brandon Ennis at? Why don't we see him involved in the offense at all?" And I don't think that he's the type of guy who's you get him in space and he's like he scares you with a home run threat where he can make a guy miss and take it 70 yards down the sideline. I just think he's a really good route runner and he's a sure catcher of the football. He doesn't drop the ball. And that's exactly what he did Saturday. I thought it was also really good for Julian Sant to get into those positions where he had to kind of figure some shit out with Quincy Porter, Mylan Graham, Bryson Rogers, Brandon Ennis. You didn't have your 2 first-round NFL all-everything wide receivers to throw to. I think it was good for Julian to kind of face a little bit of that adversity and just know that everything's not going to be perfect. Shit can happen as we get down here through this back stretch. You might not have Carnell Tate. You might not have Jeremiah Smith. So I thought it was really good to see him get out there with a lot of those younger guys and just see them get acclimated together, get their timing down. You could clearly see there was a little bit of a timing issues at times. Came out of the second half, struggled a little bit. I think that first or second drive kind of getting things going. But once they settled in, the offense picked up, and they played fine after that. But I think just as the kind of the course of the season and how everything goes, I think it's going to pay dividends for putting Sand in those spots. Everything's gone perfect to this point. He hasn't screwed up much at all. So to kind of have some adversity, especially in a game where you're up 27-0 and you're probably not going to face any adversity at all, I thought it was awesome to see him kind of go in there, get put in those situations, and have to try to figure it out with a group of kids, basically, that he's not as familiar with as the other two. And lastly, on a final note, we saw a little bit of a change at right guard. Tegra was still out there at times, but Van Sinkle played some snaps at right guard, and you could see a clear difference in the run game. We saw runs busting. I think all 3 backs, Peoples, West, and Jackson, all had over 7 carries, 7 yards per carry each. So, and then on the flip side of that, when Van Sinkle was in there, you also didn't see Phillip Daniels screw up as much. And I don't know what's going on. It seems like that they're trying to kind of continue to push Tegra out there. They're still continuing to give him reps, opportunities. But even now, when like you get Josh Padilla back here, hopefully next week, and you got Van Sinkle, who looked like he played pretty damn good. I didn't go back and watch the film or anything, but just on the clips that they were showing on the TV, it just looked like everything was a little bit more simultaneous, put together, and everybody was on the same page. Where a lot of times when Tegra's in there, if all 5 aren't on the same page, you're going to have an issue. And that's a lot of times where I think where the struggles in the run game have come. So hopefully they can clean that up. They can get somebody at right guard that's not Tegra, or if it is Tegra, figure it the hell out. But other than that, I think there was a lot of positivity to see that there are some other guys here on this team or on that offensive line that can step up and fill that role if Tegra isn't going to be the guy. Other than that, that's about all I have. Like I said, 48-10 win over UCLA. Not a whole lot you can take away from a game like that, but another win, 10-0. On to the next.